This was then followed up to wrap up the day here, a long, exhausting day, with the product spotlight. This is where Christopher O'Donnell, who is not sure his exact title, I believe he's like the product manager. I'm not sure what he is, but he's in charge of all the different hubs and all the different products that are rolled out. He got to announce exactly what's new here in HubSpot. I mentioned a few yesterday on the Partner Day episode, just alluding to, 2, 3, 4 of them that are coming. I'm going to run down here a lot of these cool things that are being loaded up. It started with Christopher talking about how they're using NPS, Net Promoter Score, HubSpot's ability to send out hey customer, tell us how you feel. And when people respond, that feedback goes directly into their Slack channel, giving HubSpot an opportunity to field those inquiries. You're unhappy? You have a concern about this? Well, they can then bring that to the account manager's attention and they can follow up with those issues. They're really listening to our feedback. They also have the ideas forum on HubSpot. When you put an idea in the ideas forum and it gets upvoted, the product team looks at that and they actually act on it. They use that as their guiding light, their North Star of what should be developed next. One thing that Christopher admitted was they don't do a great job of letting people know who've participated in a conversation around a product request when it gets rolled out. So there might be things that are introduced and they're not being notified. Hey, that thing you asked for, we got. So he's working on improving that. But with those requests, they were hearing 2 significant categories of things. 1, I need HubSpot to be easier. And 2, I need more. So going down these general topics, easier, they've introduced the contact deduplication tool. If you do subscribe to Inbound and Down, the podcast, 2 episodes ago, we did introduce the contact deduplication tool. This is the ability in HubSpot to find contact records that are the same, could be the same person, but maybe they use 2 different email addresses. We have certain information on one and not on the other. This is the ability to identify those and merge them together. Something else that they've worked on, because so many people use HubSpot as a platform and so many people use the CRM, they worked on load speed. When you load up the CRM, if the website is taking too long to view a contact and then you navigate to another contact, it becomes a bad user experience. It's also a drag generally on the website. So they've done some changes to the contact records and all records in HubSpot, whereas last year it was loading at about 5.87 seconds. So fully loaded. They've now increased the speed. First of all, starting with the navigation. The navigation loads almost immediately. And then the balance of the page loads within 2.95 seconds. So just a user experience for improvement there for HubSpot users. They've also redesigned the contact records and deal records and company records there in HubSpot. That's something that we've covered in the past. It happened early this year. It's now a 3-column layout. You can now access a lot more data on affiliated or associated companies and deals when you're looking at a contact record. There's just a lot more information you can see with this new 3-column layout. The other thing they've introduced, I mentioned this, I believe, yesterday, workflows now has merging, which is the ability to jump from one column to another. If you've executed an if-then branch and ended at the end of one, you can then jump up to another one. So instead of having to duplicate and build the same paths down either if-then at certain points, now you can jump around, which is really, really great. They also introduced folders and workflows, so you have the ability to organize your workflows a bit better. Something that is mega that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about is an e-commerce aspect. It's not e-commerce in a bunch of products, but you have the ability to generate buy now links powered by Stripe. So the Stripe integration lets you email a link out to somebody and they can purchase directly there. They don't have to go and leave and go to some new environment. If you're using point-based pricing, oh, you want 6 more blogs this month? Here, go ahead and buy it. You can send them a link. All they have to do is put in their credit card, processed. You get notified when that transaction has been completed. So very cool, trying to make it as easy as possible for people to purchase. That actually goes back to the removing friction that I had mentioned before from Brian Halligan's presentation. Another thing I have here, now we're into the I need more section of content here. I need more has really fueled this idea of the app marketplace. I had mentioned on yesterday's episode from Partner Day that I sat in on the app developer panel discussion. The app marketplace has now been redesigned so that you can access all of the hundreds and hundreds, I'm not sure the exact number, I would say like 200, 300 different integration partners, and you can review them better. You can see exactly what features are included in that integration. For example, is it bi-directional sync? When you update something on one side, does it always update the other way, or is it only one directional? So a better marketplace where you can see more information, see some reviews, maybe suggest some product feedback. I don't know if that actually exists, but it should. Introducing that, a better marketplace there for the apps. There is something called permission sets that have been introduced. Previously on, I believe, enterprise level accounts, you'd have the ability to limit users from accessing certain contacts or companies or deals based on, is it owned by them? Is it owned by somebody in their team, or can they see everything? Well, now with permission sets, you can also limit things like, well, what blogs can they access? What landing pages can they access? What workflows can they access? Because you might have multiple teams that need different workflows, but you don't want some to access ones for the other team. So that's very interesting there, depending on how big of a user you are. The next one on here is the NPS emails are now part of workflows. So you don't just send out an NPS email asking for people to give you feedback, how satisfied are you? You actually have the ability to then follow up with, if they do this, then create a task for the person that owns it to follow up with them, follow up with a thank you, or follow up with a, I'm sorry that you're unhappy. We're doing everything that we can. So interesting to introduce that, make it more dynamic. I believe, I'm not sure if he said this, but I think I've heard it around, the floor here. They're looking to introduce the ability to ask more in those NPS emails. Right now, when they go out, it's really just, there's 3 different versions, but for the most part, it's like, how satisfied are you? Well, maybe you want to also ask, which of these products are you also interested in, or whatever those additional questions might be. So I hope that's coming. I think that's coming. I think that's what I heard. They've rolled out something called adaptive page testing. This is where I think you can try 5 different pages. It's like A/B testing, but it happens dynamically. And those 5 different landing pages, as they all run at the same time, will slowly over time start serving the one that's performing better. And by the end of maybe like a 2-week trial, you can say, okay, landing page B is the best built landing page. Let's focus more on that. Let's try and iterate on that one. Something I mentioned yesterday, Facebook Messenger. People are on Facebook. They want to communicate with you. If they send a message through Facebook Messenger, it can now get added to your shared inbox. So where previously your chat widget that was on your website or your support email was feeding into that shared inbox, well, now they've rolled out Facebook Messenger. I'm sure there are other channels that are going to be introduced as well in the future. When they first introduced the shared inbox, they said, Facebook Messenger's coming. Well, it's here. Glad that's here. What's next? What else can we introduce? Just to make sure that your customer support team is fielding inquiries from wherever your customers want to be communicating with you. And then the last 2 that I have on here, attribution reporting. So they have better reporting on where people are coming in and converting. So you may have like an outgoing email that gets sent out to a database that you've acquired that brings them back to the site, that then makes them contact the sales department, that then enrolls them in a follow-up workflow. Well, which one of those things contributed to them actually closing? Attribution report starts to look at all of those and give it credit as this was part of the touch, this was part of the touch, this was part of the touch. So better insights into exactly what's converting as opposed to just looking at what's the first conversion. And then the last one, big one for a lot of people, the ability to email on the free CRM. It's also with the free marketing platform. If you're using, either of those free hubs, you can now send emails, use their drag and drop editor, create emails and send them out. I believe there's a limit of 2,000 per month, but it's something that was limited before. And this is now making it a much more flexible model. I personally have an initiative to build out a client with all free hubs, just so that I can speak more intelligently to other clients and say, maybe we can dial back a spend. You don't need to be paying for this hub because the functionality that you're using here, we could access it with the free platform. So really great stuff there rolled out. That brings me to the end of the day. It's been a long, beautiful, exhausting day. It looks like I've been able to cram that into under 30 minutes. So I hope this was valuable to you. I'm going to check back in again tomorrow and let you know how day 2 of Inbound 2019 goes. Hopefully it's just as engaging and powerful as today was. So, also worth mentioning, Phil Stott, who I mentioned was coming out, is here with me at Inbound. He did not want to be on the podcast just yet, but I'm sure we'll get him on an episode at some point soon and introduce you guys to Stotty. So, okay, that brings me to the close here. Please tune in tomorrow and I hope to hear from you. No, that's weird. I'll just wrap it up with the toodles. Toodles!